Well, hey, North Park Community Church. Pastor Luke here with another episode of First Looks. And we are in week 2 of our singing the Psalms through the summer series. And this is volume 2. Volume 2 because we did this last summer and we're doing it again this summer. Also volume 2 kind of as a way of just indicating that we are taking selections from book 2 of the Psalms. Psalms are divided into 5 books, and this is selections from book 2. And in particular, you'll see we are looking at Psalm 47 today. And just as maybe just a little note is we're going through this particular summer series with our minds geared toward how do these ancient songs calibrate our hearts and minds to engage rightly in musical worship as God's people. We're asking that question because we're searching for a music director here in North Park. And so with that, let's just go ahead and dive right on in. We'll see just from the superscript right here that this was a song that was sung by the Jews. And so this is to the choir master. This is a psalm of the sons of Korah right there. And so just an indicator to us that this was one that was sung by God's people. So let's go ahead and dive on in. Let's look right at it. First, I just want to highlight this right here, that this is a command that leads out this is a command for musical worship. And so with this command, what we are commanded to do is to clap your hands, to shout to God. And worth noting is all peoples, and we'll come back to this idea as we move through the psalm, and we see kind of the grounds for the praise to the Lord. So clap your hands, all people, and shout to God with loud songs of joy. So songs indicates that we're singing. Joy tells us that the songs that we're singing are rejoicing and filled with joy, excitement. There's a pathos to it. So that's just kind of an obvious there. But then a loud, I think, also contributes to that idea of pathos as well, where there's a certain exuberance and intensity behind the singing. Okay, I'll stop there. So that's kind of what we have in the initial command at the beginning of the song, and we'll have a repeated command later on. But before we get to that repeated command, we have the reasons why we sing. We sing for the Lord, just by way of reminder that Lord here, all capital, Yahweh, which is covenant name of God for his special chosen people, Israel. And he's also the Most High. This is Elyon, Most High, above all else, exalted up, and we'll see that at the very beginning, that God is exalted. He is to be feared. This is a reverence right there. This is reverence in this in kind of that we like to quote the Mr. Beaver talking about Aslan. Is he safe? No, he's not safe, but he's good. That kind of thing where there's a legitimate fear to deal tritely or with God, or to disregard, or even worse yet, to rebel against him. He is to be feared. He is great king over all the earth. So, king over all the earth, which is something that I think we would say and it kind of roll off our tongue when we say it, this side of the cross. But for this means more than God of Israel. Which is kind of how the Jews would think of it. They would say that, yes, he's the God over all, certainly. He's the one true God, the creator God of all things. But there is also kind of this, I don't want to say entitlement, because that's got a kind of a negative connotation to it, but there was this acknowledgement that they were the special people of God. God was uniquely, covenantally their king. And But let's keep going here. It says that he subdued peoples under us. And so this could be a reference to Exodus / Egypt. This could be a reference to Philistines or Canaanites. That the Lord drove out to give the promised land. This could also just be just a recent military victory that's on the mind of this writer. But he subdued peoples under us, and nations right there under our feet. And this right here, I think what we're going to start to think about is that there is an immediate context in mind, and we would just say one of those up there, but also an eschatological anticipation. And what I mean by eschatological anticipation is there is a hope and a longing and a trust that one day this will be globally true, that all nations are subdued underneath the feet of God and of His kingdom. But we return here back to kind of the idea that we mentioned up here, that this is, we're seeing that God is king over all the earth, that the nations will be subdued underneath him, but we have that special place that the Jews leaned upon. He chose our heritage for us. The pride of Jacob, whom he loves. And so right here we see God's special love for his covenant people. Yeah. And then an appropriate place for Selah here, which is a musical note for a pause. It's a call for a pause, a rest, and then it picks back up again. God has gone up with a shout. God has gone up. Literally, this is like he ascended, and so when we think ascended, the immediate kind of way that this word is used is with the idea of royalty going to throne. But as he ascends to his throne as king, as that happens, it's with a shout, and the sound of trumpet. So this is characteristic language for military victory / conquest. And so once again, we're seeing just a repeated theme here that we saw, that he's king over all the earth. He subdues people. Then kind of situated in the center there in the purple, his people, his kingdom is that of Israel, the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so here's our second command then to sing. It shows up here. It says, sing praises to God, sing praises to our King, sing praises. One thing that I might just emphasize here, well, actually it kind of rolls into this following verse as well. So, for God is King of all the earth, so sing praises with a psalm. So in what is 2 verses here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we see that there is repetition here. Repetition has kind of a bad rap in current music songs, that if it just repeats itself, then it must be shallow or just trying to conjure up emotions, and it doesn't really have theological depth to it. And I would actually just push back against that and say that while that may be the case, it is not necessarily the case because it has repetition. I think you have to look at more to the song than just does it repeat itself. And I just say that to just kind of, I think if I could just be honest, I think we just kind of get antagonistic against certain songs and certain forms of songs when they might not necessarily be bad. It could be a repetition of a very true and beautiful aspect about God or about the gospel. And just because we repeat it doesn't make it shallow or necessarily a bad song. The Psalms have a whole lot of redundancy in them, and that does not in any way devalue the Psalms or make them shallow or trite because of that. And so just returning to this, we just see this repeated command to sing praises to God, to our King, God who is the King of all the earth. And so we see a building here, a progression that happens. A building progression of praise. And then it says with a psalm. Now this right here is the Hebrew maskil, which is a word that we really don't know for certain what it means. But one Hebrew translator, very respectable, reputable translator, his name is Robert Alter, and he translates it as a joyous song. That's how Alter, that's what he calls it there. Alan P. Ross, another Old Testament translator and Hebrew expert, he translates it as a skillful psalm. That's how he translates it. So all that to say that this word certainly carries with it. It's a word that has intentionality in designed behind it. This isn't a sloppily crafted, thrown together, first draft type songs that we sing. They're songs that carry with it truth and meaning and value. It's intentionally crafted, skillfully designed, beautifully played, all of that. So that's all, I think, kind of wrapped up within this Sing Praises with a maskil. And then we progress again to the why behind it, because God reigns over the nations, and God sits on his holy throne. So he's over the whole world, ruling from the heavens. And we see that the princes of the people gather as the people of the God of Abraham. Now, this is actually an incredibly theologically loaded bit right here. Let me get a different color, kind of set this apart. The princes of the people, meaning peoples right there. This is meaning non-Israelite princes or rulers, because remember, he's reigning over all the nations. God is. They collect as the people of the God of Abraham. This is huge. This means that that the whole world, will be brought into the ultimate, the telos, will be brought into the fullness of the Abrahamic. I get to writing and start thinking about other words and other thoughts while I'm still writing, and my hand doesn't keep up with the spelling. Brought into the fullness of the Abrahamic covenant. Now we would also say, see Galatians 3 and 4 for a little bit more on that. Now this really gets into a lot of theological stuff if you want to go down that that rabbit hole. I don't think I'm going to go down that rabbit hole in my message. I might, I don't know, but I mean, this is getting into big concepts of dispensationalism and covenant theology, and what's the relationship between New Covenant, church age, people of God, and Israel, and that is just a loaded conversation right there. Suffice it to say, though, what seems to be said pretty plainly, without having to do a lot of theological gymnastics or anything, but it seems like the rulers of the nations will come together just as the people do in Israel, as Israel does, who underneath the God of Abraham. And that God of Abraham is language that is drawing our attention to the Abrahamic covenant. That's what's being intended to draw our attention to in this language. So huge stuff there, really huge stuff. All right, for the shields of the earth belong to God. Okay, carrying that theme of God is above all the nations, and he is highly exalted. And so let me go here, and then highly exalted, and we saw that back up with for the Lord Elyon, Most High. He is God is Elyon, Most High, and so he is exalted by his people. So there's a quick look at the psalm. There's so much here. There's so much about the way music is used by God's people to glorify him. And so I think that's going to be like a real key thing that we're looking to hone in on. How music is used by God's people to glorify / worship him. I think that is a big point that we can draw out of this beautiful psalm that is so incredibly rich. It is just layered with titles of God, for God, revelation about God, so much about the work of God, and then music is musical praise is the natural response to who God is and what God is doing, and that'll preach, that'll sing. So look forward to gathering with you on Sunday to sing unto the Lord, and to hopefully grasp in a fuller measure how song works in our lives as believers. So I love you, church, and I'll see you in a couple days.